Okay, so picture this, a world, no Google.
Whoa.
I know, right? Try it. It's like almost impossible to imagine.
It is.
And that's kind of what has the Justice Department all fired up right now.
It-
They're taking on Google,
Yeah.
claiming they've basically built this like massive monopoly,
Right.
and it's practically swallowing the internet whole.
Right.
So on this deep dive, we're going to try to like unpack this whole thing.
Okay.
Figure out what is the DOJ's actual argument here.
Okay.
Could Google actually get broken up?
Right.
And like, what does it mean for us, the people who, let's face it, we basically live online.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's get into it. The DOJ's case basically boils down to this. Google has this like iron grip on search, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're using that power to just crush any competition.
Yeah.
And the numbers are kind of crazy. They control something like 90% of the entire search market.
90%. That's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot. And what's interesting here is that this isn't just like some tech world drama. It really takes us back to those like legendary antitrust cases.
Mm-hmm.
Like AT&T getting split up back in the 70s.
Right.
Microsoft in a hot seat in the 2000s.
Yeah.
These weren't just lawsuits. These were like economic earthquakes.
Oh, absolutely.
But most people don't actually remember that Microsoft didn't actually get broken up in the end, did they?
That's right. And that's the thing. Full-on breakups, they're really rare.
Yeah.
They're like the nuclear option.
Right.
More often these cases, they end with some pretty serious rule changes for the company.
Okay.
Think of it like, the government comes in and says, all right, Google, party's over. Time to start playing by the rules.
Okay. So what kind of rules are we even talking about here? Like, what could the DOJ actually do?
Well, they've thrown out a few pretty interesting ideas.
Okay.
The most drastic one, and the one that everybody's talking about, is a breakup.
Right.
We're talking splitting Google up into, a bunch of smaller companies. Imagine YouTube off doing its own thing.
Wow.
Waymo out there cutting self-driving deals, all separate.
It's like the opposite of that whole Avengers Assemble thing.
Right. And this is where it gets really interesting, because how do you even begin to, untangle a company as massive as Google? Would it even work?
Yeah.
And that's just one of the remedies that they're considering. The DOJ is also, they've talked about forcing Google to share the data.
Mm-hmm.
The data that makes their search engine, so incredibly powerful.
Right, right.
Or clamping down on those deals Google makes to be the default search engine on pretty much everything.
Oh, right.
iPhones, laptops, you name it.
So data sharing sounds like kind of simple on the surface, right?
Yeah.
But when you really get into it,
It gets tricky.
it gets really complicated, really fast.
Yeah, for sure.
What does that even look like in practice, right?
Yeah.
What is this data? Who gets to see it?
Right.
And then once it's out there, how do you even begin to control it? Make sure it's not being misused.
Right.
I mean, talk about privacy nightmares, right?
Oh, yeah.
If somebody got a hold of your search history,
Oh, I know.
or worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you've got the whole default search engine situation, right?
Yeah.
Most of us, we don't even think about it.
Right.
We just open our phone, open our browser, start typing.
It's automatic.
But those deals that Google has in place, I mean, they're like golden tickets.
Oh, absolutely.
They mean that for a lot of people, Google IS the internet, essentially.
Yeah.
Like if you have an iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you type something into that Safari search bar,
Yeah.
it's going straight to Google.
Straight to Google.
Changing that could completely change how people find information, how they consume information online.
Yeah.
So even these things that seem kind of small, these tweaks, they could have huge ripple effects.
Absolutely.
Google's not just going to sit back and let all this happen.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been pushing back hard, right?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that blog post they put out?
I do.
They were not happy.
Wow.
But their main point was essentially, hey, we got this big because we're the best at this.
Right.
People are choosing to use Google.
Right.
And you know what? They kind of have a point.
They do. It's true.
No one's out there forcing people to Google things. It's like second nature at this point.
It's a reflex.
I can't even imagine what it would take to actually get people to switch at this point.
I know, right?
And that's really their strongest card, don't you think?
It is.
It goes beyond just convenience.
Yeah.
They're basically saying that if you dismantle our dominance, you're going to stifle innovation.
Right, right.
Which ironically, is like the exact opposite of what antitrust laws are supposed to do.
Exactly. That's their point.
They're trying to flip the script and be like, no, see, we're the good guys. We make the internet better.
We're the heroes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've got their talking points, sure. But, like, the DOJ wouldn't be going after them if they didn't think they had a case, right?
Right.
So, I mean, do you think their arguments could actually hold up in court?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And the answer is nobody really knows.
Right.
We are so far in uncharted territory here.
Yeah.
What makes this case so fascinating is it's less about did Google break the law and more about, like, how does the law even need to evolve to deal with these, like, tech giants?
Right.
They're in a whole different category.
It's a whole new world. And in the meantime, like, we're all kind of just sitting here wondering, what does this actually mean for me?
Right.
The average person just trying to, like, exist online.
Yeah. And that's what's kind of crazy about all this, right?
It is.
Like, we all use Google.
We do.
We rely on Google.
Yeah.
But what happens if this actually, like, shakes everything up? Like, really?
Yeah.
What are the chances we're actually going to see Google broken up?
Well, I mean, if we're being realistic.
Historically speaking, pretty slim.
Okay.
Those are usually reserved for the most, I don't know, like, egregious cases.
Right.
Where it's just so obvious that a company has this, like, stranglehold on the market and they are just refusing to budge.
So you're saying we're probably not going to see, like, a dozen mini Googles popping up anytime soon?
Probably not, no.
Okay.
But, and this is a big but,
Okay.
even if Google doesn't get, split up,
Right.
this whole thing
Yeah.
could be a huge wake-up call.
Interesting.
Like a sign they need to maybe, start playing a little nicer in the sandbox.
Right. It's like getting called to the principal's office, but you don't actually get suspended.
Exactly.
You're still thinking twice.
Oh, yeah. You're rethinking some life choices for sure.
Exactly.
They might have to make some, like, serious changes, even if it's behind the scenes, just to avoid,
Right.
ending up right back here in a couple of years.
Back in the hot seat.
Exactly.
So it's less about, like, whether Google survives all this and more about how they come out on the other side.
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
This could be the start of a whole new chapter for them. One where they're kind of forced to be a little more, a little more aware of their own power.
Right.
Or it could be even bigger than that.
Okay.
It could be a turning point for the entire tech industry.
Right.
A sign that the days of just, like, completely unchecked growth
Yeah.
for these big tech companies, those days might be over.
It's a lot, right?
It is a lot.
It's a lot to take in. But I think the important thing here is to remember, this isn't just like some abstract legal battle, right?
No.
This is about the future of the internet.
It is.
This is about the information that we see, that we consume.
Absolutely.
This is about who has the power online
Yes.
and how that power is being used.
100%.
So, next time you're sitting there, you're about to Google something.
Yeah.
Just take a second. Think about what's actually going on behind that search bar.
It's more than meets the eye, right?
It really is. It's
Yeah.
a lot more complicated and, frankly, a lot more important than a lot of us probably realize.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it.
I think so, too. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Yeah, this was great.